Hello folks, this is a how to play video for Downstream. Downstream is a two-player card game about building a river. It's a physical card game. I'm playing on a digital tabletop right now, but you can find the physical game at www.firestarter.games. Now, as I mentioned, this is a game about building out a river. You'll be adding cards like so, extending the flow of water, and then sometimes even tucking cards under each other, kind of like this here. There are a few rules about how you're playing cards, but we'll get to those in a minute. What I want to first start with, though, is what your objective is. Each player represents one side of the river. So I would be the bottom side over here. My opponent would be on the opposite side of the water. And we're trying to place symbols in certain places. How you know where you want to put symbols is based on your objective set for each game. So here, there are 5 objectives. One for each of the symbols that you'll see in the game, and then also a river-wide objective over here. At the bottom of these cards, you'll see stars. Those are their point value. If you satisfy these objectives better than your opponent, you will score that card and earn the points for it. If both players satisfy the objective at the same amount, then it would be a tie. Both players would score those points. We'll look at a good example over here with mountains. This objective is saying who has the most pairs of mountains. Pairs meaning, in this case, mountains that are right next to each other. So if there was a mountain here and then another mountain, although this isn't a legal play, let's flip it around properly. There we go. There's a pair of mountains over here. So this side of the river would score that mountain objective if this was the end of the game. Obviously, there's a lot more cards to play, so your river would be longer and you'd be able to play more pairs as you went along. With each of these different objective sets, there are multiple for each type. So here, for instance, mountains, we could play for most pairs, or we could play for the longest chain of mountains, or most mountains not next to each other, and so on. You'll be able to randomize these objectives at the start of the game, or in this case, I'm using a suggested set for your first game, which is in your rule sheet there. But every game is going to be different based on the ones that you pick here. Now, the next piece is how you actually play the game. At the start, there's one last piece of setup that I should mention, and that is choosing your bonus card. You'll have 3 of them at the start, and you'll have to pick one to keep. Let's say I'm going to keep this one over here. This is just giving you additional points for every certain amount of each symbol. So in this case, 1 point for every 2 campsites on my side of the river. I would keep this hidden. My opponent would also have a hidden card on their side as well. So on your turn, you will be drawing a card from the top of the deck, or you can flip the deck over and take the bottom card. Now, if I take from the top, no problem. I take this card and then I go ahead and I play it. If I take from the bottom, I flip it over. I can no longer flip it back. I'm stuck taking this card. And after flipping the deck, I move the canoe forwards by 1 space. Then I can draw my card, and then I can play it. What this canoe does is it limits where you can play cards. So you can only play cards in the same space as the canoe or downstream of it. So let's say the canoe had moved forward quite a few spaces over the way. I would no longer be able to play cards in these 3 spaces. I would only be able to play cards here, there, or downstream at the end of the river. So I'd have to take this card and maybe put it over here. Now, when you play a card, I'll just draw another one here, you can rotate it freely. You can flip it over. And you have to connect at least 1 terrain color. So here, green matches green. That is a terrain match, so that's good to go. I couldn't, however, do this because there are no terrain matches on either side. And back to this green example. Even though gray and yellow don't match, the green does. So I am all good. If I wanted to add a card underneath another, so if I wanted to tuck it, let's see, we'll pretend the canoe's all the way back up here still. I can place the card like so, put it underneath, and now I've got 2 symbols in the same space. It's called a stack of cards. And this allows you to kind of go back and edit some of your spaces and add symbols so that you can complete certain objectives. Now, when I tuck, I can tuck as many cards as I'd like in the same space as long as I'm not putting two of the same symbol in the same stack. You don't need to worry about what's on your opponent's side, just on your own side. I couldn't have another forest, or I couldn't place another wildlife symbol over here. And ultimately, that's really the game. You would be playing out until the entire deck is emptied, then going into scoring. There's obviously a few little other pieces to note. There are tributaries, which are these cards here. They essentially split up two different terrain types, and when you flip them over, they are the mirror image, which is handy for when you're trying to connect things together, right? And then the other symbol is this here, the point of interest symbol. It's just a star, and essentially what that's saying is, at the end of the game, if you have one of these on your side of the river, you're scoring a point for it. That's all there is to that symbol. You can check out a symbol reference card here. This tells you what the distribution of each symbol is. So, for example, for forests, there's 6 forests on green, 3 forests on gray, and 3 forests on yellow. And as you go down the card, you'll see the different distribution for these different symbols. At the end of the game, I already mentioned this, but at the end of the game, if there are 2 players who have matched the same amount on any objective here, you will both score the value for that. Other points will come from your bonus symbol. And then lastly, you will get points for any points of interest on your side. So tally those 3 things together. That gives you your final score. If it's a tie, both players win the game. If you've got any other questions about Downstream, you can check out, obviously, your rule sheet to begin with. But there's also a frequently asked questions page, which you can scan this QR code for. You'll see other people have posted questions online, and you can also ask your own. I'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. Well, folks, I hope you enjoy Downstream. I'm looking forward to hearing how different games have been going for people. And if you've got any feedback or questions, definitely check out that frequently asked questions page. But in either case, that's it for me now. And I hope you all have a lovely day. Bye-bye.